Okay, we're calling the Committee on International and Legal Affairs to order, noting the attendance of Councilmembers Toba, Waters, Okimoto, Cordero, Tupola, and Kiaina. Okay, members, pursuant to Section 92-3.7 HRS, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in person in the council chamber and remotely when each agenda item is taken up. As both English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution and Section 1-13 of the HRS, members of the public may testify in either language. For oral testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time as may be necessary will be allowed for testifiers to provide an English translation of their testimony. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a one-minute presentation on each item. Once in-person testimony is concluded, I will proceed to those who have registered to testify remotely by video conference. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. I will then give persons who have not registered an opportunity to offer testimony. Please utilize the raise hand feature in Zoom to be called. For those joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, please press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. Some friendly reminders and tips: video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you are also watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time when you are called to testify. When the timer on screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires all votes at remote meetings to be conducted by a roll call vote unless unanimous. Therefore, I will first call for objections. If there are any, I will call for a roll call vote. Okay, no council members are participating remotely. For written testimonies, including testifiers' email address, and phone number will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. Cell phones, as a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones. Please note the attendance of Councilmembers Wire and Tam, and I believe we have everyone today. Okay, for agenda item number 1, resolution 26-129, confirming Krishna Jayaram to serve as the managing director for the city and county of Honolulu. Krishna, would you like to say a few words?
Good afternoon, Chair, Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. As I mentioned, I'm deeply grateful to the Mayor for his trust and confidence. I'm grateful for the support of my colleagues, and I hope I've earned your support in the last 4.5 years, but I look forward to this discussion and answering any questions you might have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll proceed to in-person testifiers. Oh, sorry, any questions for?
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you. You got my 110% support. Really enjoyed working with you over the last 4 years, but I asked the same question of Director Kawano yesterday. I'm just curious if you could answer the same thing. We're looking at revenue generation. How can the city generate revenue without raising property taxes? Because, you know, I have Bill 45 and 46 actually lowering taxes by increasing the homeowner's exemption. But how do we lower taxes but yet generate revenue? If you have any ideas.
Sure, that's such a good question, and I wish I'd been here to listen to Director Kawano's response. As you and I have discussed, you know, the cost of living situation here is a very real thing, and so we very much are in line that we don't want to raise taxes wherever we can, but at the same time, our needs continue expanding every day. And the truth of it is, there's certain tools that we haven't used as well as we could have. Councilmember Cordero championed the sponsorship bill last year, And I have not seen a significant increase of usage of that bill at all. So that's something, for example, that I would want to push our departments to be more thoughtful about and work on, because there are many departments that have a really good brand, a really good reputation. There's people out there who want to help us, and we should be working on those types of things. But that's one thought. But if the council has other ideas, I'd be more than happy to work on this.
One of the other things I brought up in the past was, advertisement on our bus or in the rail. I think that would be really, really good. Maybe even in the rail stations. You could name a rail station after someone who's willing to donate money. But I think that would be really good. Other cities do it, but we haven't done it. Mostly because of the outdoor circle, but advertisement on buses, on the exterior of buses or bus stops. Is that something that you're willing to look at?
Chair, so I was here at Corp Council, and this was back in 2012 when we tried to do the advertising on the buses. And it's exactly as you described. There was a significant opposition. But I think done right, it can still be done. And so that's something that we just need to discuss with Outdoor Circle and figure out and see if we can get done. I mean, other cities, as you know, do it. We're very proud and rightfully so about sort of visual pollution. But there must be a way we can get it done in a proper way. And so I'd be open to figuring that out.
Wedding photography is not allowed in Waikiki, but I thought, what a great idea to have one of those kiosks in Waikiki. We're trying to activate those. I think we put a Beaky station in one of them. But why not have a wedding photographer in there where wedding photographers could rent out the space and, we could charge them money for that.
Truly, it's any and all ideas. I think the question is the investment that we put in and whether that return will come back. That's the final analysis that we'd all go through together.
Yeah, no, I get that, but it probably costs nothing. Those kiosks in Waikiki, it wouldn't cost anything. Just rent it out. Okay, as long as you're willing to work with us and try to figure out how we can raise revenue. Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councilmember Tupolo.
Thank you. Aloha. Thank you for being here. And of course, I do support you. I've enjoyed working with you, and I'm looking forward to, some changes that I think need to happen on the administrative level. So I'll bring up a few. I think Chair Waters is going the same direction as I am, which is let's just list them all down and see what sticks. First off, I did talk to Director Kahikina about just the need for us to have a better plan around all the rail stations as far as housing. I mean, we brought it up in my committee, and I do think that it's not necessarily the purview of the current housing director, which is fine. There's other housing things you guys are working on. I'm talking specific TOD proposals. Councilmember Cordero brought up her area, of which we were told it's really not a priority right now. That one we're thinking about later, or whatever it was. But then I did ask Director Kahikina, so if it's not your purview, because HART's supposed to get up and execute the rail, it's not DTS's purview because they're supposed to operate the rail, then whose purview is it to think about how we could maximize the use of the property we own around these rail stations? And she said, we used to run a working group. She said we used to run a monthly working group under Mayor Caldwell where we were talking about how we could maximize, because, we're about to spend all this money at each of these stations. What could we put there? What partnerships with property owners around there? Would it be something that yourself or maybe the administration would be willing to entertain? Because I've heard it brought up in multiple discussions, but I've come to the conclusion that it's no one's purview to try to figure out if specifically along the TOD route, if we're maximizing and even bringing in revenue around each of the rail stations, as well as housing initiatives that we brought forward in various bills.
Yeah, Councilmember Tupola, thank you. So with respect to the housing and the TOD, that's absolutely DHLM working with DPP. So that's absolutely happening. If that hasn't been shared with you or conveyed to you appropriately, I'd want to figure that out and get that done.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I'm being very specific, though. I'll bring up one. I was talking to Director Kahikina about the last rail station, and she said, luckily, in one of the conversations, we realized the rail station was facing the wrong way, and we faced it the right way towards the housing. It's a small conversation, but there's the Servco property, there's the property by Pearl Ridge, which we brought up, and we were told, okay, we're not going to develop that now. What I'm saying is that In DHLM, there are many initiatives, and TOD is not the main focus. So in the event that this is rolling out as one of the most expensive transportation projects the state of Hawaii has ever seen, we should kind of micro-focus in on it and figure out, okay, could we have commercial at the bottom of these? Should we be building out paid overnight parking so that we can have more people use the rail? Like, these are ideas that we float, but really no one's in charge of any of these ideas because DTS has to make sure ridership is up, HART has to make sure we build it. So I think I'm talking about the macro level of the rail and not just like, oh, housing. Like, it could be everything. It could be commercial at the bottom of the rail. It could be advertising. It could be housing. It could be, utilizing paid overnight parking lot. So is it something that you could just take into consideration, please?
Understood, Councilmember. Thank you.
The second thing I wanted to bring up is that I really do feel like if under your, as the managing director, could please make some type of system of better follow-ups with all of us. I think it's been a frustration of mine to follow up with the administration, and then as we have the same meeting for the third time, there's no progress. So I'm not sure if it's a CRM or if it's a specific person that writes down, like, between this meeting and the next one, these things will get done. But I was just hoping that under your leadership, we could maybe make a better system of follow-ups on items that really we can't move even through legislation that we're relying on the administration to do.
Understand. We always want to be better. Communication can get better too.
And my last question is, I really want to urge the administration to consider having a policy person. Somebody, and I know you guys have one, because I believe he went over to the ledge and he was dabbling, meeting with other representatives, but having a strong policy person that reads our bills, understands kind of like the macro level of like, how does that pertain to like the initiatives? Do we support or oppose? I know that Director Kawano kind of handles the weight of much of the analysis of it because a lot of it is fiscally related. But I think it would be advantageous to have someone that's helping on that side. And then likewise, when we come to the ledge session in January, somebody that wants to build the relationships, work with the legislators, kind of bring back, some of the ideas they're doing that could affect us, like the vehicle weight tax bill that came through that we didn't really have a good heads up on until the very end, and then the city asked to, have them veto it when we really should be working with them from the beginning. So it's just a suggestion, but I think on the policy front, it would advantage the administration to have somebody that specifies in that for our branch as well as for the legislative branch. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for being here, Krishna. I also want to thank you for, in your past capacity, when you were so willing and open to being communicative. I want to just encourage, and as we move forward, and see what your thoughts are on how we can continue. I think Councilmember Tupola touched on some of the things that I was thinking of, but moving forward, what can we do between the council and the administration to have this type of open communication? I feel like there's been gaps that we haven't filled. Even yesterday in our morning hearing, our Budget and Fiscal Services Director mentioned that even after working, well, I guess Councilmember Dos Santos Sam had mentioned he'd worked with the department, and it wasn't until the hearing that the director was like, well, we heard you, but some new information came about because what we were told was they didn't take it seriously, or it was they didn't think the bill would move forward. And only now that it's in committee, then they're like, okay, well, now we have more information. So I think this has been a pattern that I've noticed, that oftentimes we move things forward and we're trying to communicate, we're trying to work with the departments or work with the administration, and we're not taken seriously. And I think that's something that the council, at least from my perspective, we're trying to address and change when we have ideas or concerns, especially as it relates to things specific to our districts or to our communities, and we bring things to light, that they're not just kind of pushed to the side until it's like the 11th hour and then we're kind of taken seriously, it seems like. So what are your thoughts on how we can improve that?
Yeah, Councilmember, if I might, I would, none of us knows what goes through anybody else's mind, but what I would offer is that it's not a matter of not taking council seriously. I don't think that ever happens. I think it's a matter of everyone juggling priorities and getting swamped, and yeah, we wanted to reach out to so-and-so, but we didn't until such, but no excuses. I just want you to know that it's not some intent behind this.
Maybe it's better to have some kind of consistency, because to be fair, there are departments where the communication is positive and open, but I think I've sat through at least multiple hearings where I see an inconsistency in how we can address that. So maybe that's a better way to state that.
Thank you. If you'd be willing, and this goes to any council member, right? If there's a department which you feel you're particularly struggling with, or on the alternative, the departments that you're doing really well with, I'd like to understand better and seeing what we can replicate to be better.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, wait, let's go through
No, you can go first. I went already.
Chair Kiaina, and then we'll.
Mine will be real short because, first of all, you heard what I said in full council, and so you know that I strongly support your nomination. I also wanted to just make comment about the selection of Ian Shuring as Deputy Managing Director. I think you guys complement each other, so you make a good team. I don't know if you remember, but you helped me when you were in the Attorney General's office in 2021 when the Delta variant just started, and in a trip that I went to French Polynesia, it just started in French Polynesia, and I had a difficult time getting back to Hawaii because they were going to close down the ports there. But I just remember I didn't know you, and I just felt that you were very efficient, and you've continued that in all of your jobs here. Now that the budgetary process is over, I just wanted to let you know that my priority will be to follow up with you on the capacity building within the Managing Director's office for discretionary federal grants. I know you guys have a team. I'd like to see where you guys are at, as well as your DC lobbyists. And so, I know we deal with a lot of issues. I just wanted to tell you what is top of mind for me, and that is to ensure that the team is being well utilized and that the mayor is devising a strategy to be more competitive in securing dollars for the city and county.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember, and thank you for the kind words. And yes, the federal dollars team is something that you've been championing for years, and we'll continue to work with you on making that better and with the rest of the council members.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Sure. Okay, Waters for a second time.
I forgot to ask these questions earlier. Just to follow up on what Councilmember Kiaina was saying, though, on federal grants, it might be easier just to hire an outside firm, right, rather than doing it in-house, just a thought. But, capital improvement projects every year that the council advocates for in our districts don't seem to get done. Can you help us with that? Right?
I see the nodding of heads. Yes, we'll work with you on figuring that out.
Okay, great. And then lastly, I see you, Lori Kaikina, in the office. Do you support Skyline going to Ala Moana?
I see Lori Kahikina in the room as well. So that's something that we'll have a discussion with the HEART team and figure out as we go forward.
But do you support getting Skyline to Ala Moana?
Me personally?
Yeah.
I believe Skyline has so much. I believe Skyline has so much potential, and so the more potential that it reaches, the better.
Yeah. So next question: how do we pay for it?
Good question, Chair.
Yeah. You got any ideas?
Nothing specific for you right now.
Well, one idea is going to the legislature and asking them to extend the general excise tax. That's something that I think the administration really needs to do, right? And as managing director and someone who has a good relationship with everyone, I think you'd be perfect over there lobbying. I guess I'm asking you, are you willing to do that?
So, Chair, that's the timing of that and whether we're doing that and how is something that we're figuring out right now, and I don't want to get ahead of myself on that, if that's okay.
Yeah. Okay, then you're not going to answer the next two questions. You support going to University of Hawaii, and how do you pay for that? Or how about Waikiki, right? I think it'd be great to get the rail to Waikiki, but how are we going to pay for it? That's the billion-dollar question, right? How do you raise $1 billion? Seriously. I mean, it's not a rhetorical question. Like, that's the kind of stuff I think as managing director and as the mayor, you got to think about that kind of stuff, because I think it's going to be fantastic if it could get to Waikiki, right? If we get to the University of Hawaii. Can you imagine, like, look at traffic now. It's so much better when UH is out of session. And then once school starts, it's gridlock. I mean, coming from Councilmember Tolba's district, which I've seen, it's just horrible. But that's the kind of questions I think in your last 2 years, right? You got to think about, or punt it to the next mayor. But it'd be nice if your administration could start thinking about that.
Yeah, Chair, you've met the mayor. He's not a punting type, so we'll get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other burning questions? Seeing none. Okay, let's move into in-person testifiers. Anyone wishing to testify, please come forward. Seeing none. Seeing none.
Hello, Mr. Chair.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Angela.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES, actually in my own capacity, personal capacity, in favor of the recommendation for the former deputy director to become the managing director in the mayor's administration, because having experience in law and litigation, being an attorney and having a consistent record working through different leadership styles and working collaboratively with senior management is an excellent quality that I believe Krishna embodies. He's an incredible team player, and their administration together has demonstrated administrative skill and the ability to navigate legal risks, policy conflicts, and the practical challenges of turning laws into action. And I believe he's maintained a positive attitude despite all the challenges. And having an attorney to anticipate disputes before they become lawsuits is an incredible skill set to have for the mayor's senior executive team. And of course, I've got to witness a lot of the experience he has working with the bumps and grinds throughout the years, and I think that provides him and the team insight into what works and what fails during implementation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify? Okay, seeing none. Are there any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, thank you. All right, members, chair recommendation. The chair recommends that resolution 26-129 be reported out for adoptions. Any WRs or no's?
Discussion.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo the sentiments of our colleagues, and mahalo, Managing Director, for being willing to serve. Super grateful for the demeanor that you bring to the work, right, in navigating this political process, but also the expertise and professional background that you have. I know your job is 20 times harder than ours, given the breadth and scope of everything you have to deal with on a daily basis, and just the team, because you're coming out of leadership or in leadership already. The team that's been assembled, and just the engagement and the support and the willingness that they've always demonstrated in terms of being willing to collaborate and work on issues affecting our community, I think stems from the top. And so super excited to see you continuing in leadership and then in this newer role. And so just wanted to really say mahalo and look forward to working with you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? If not, any WRs or no's? Okay, seeing none, thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item number 2, Bill 16. Members, we have proposed a posted CD1 submitted by Councilmember Okimoto. For your information, the amendments are listed on the agenda, starting with Director Hashiro or her representative.
Good afternoon, Chair Nishimoto, council members, Kim Hashiro, Director for the Department of Customer Services. We did submit comments or testimony in support of CD1. We understand that this would require CSD to establish admin rules before the civil penalties are put into place.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for the director? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Moving on to in-person testimony, Stephanie Kendricks.
Aloha, Chair Nishimoto, Vice Chair Tupola, and members of the City Council. Stephanie Kendrick with the Hawaiian Humane Society. We're in strong support of this bill and of the proposed CD1. I want to thank Councilmember Okimoto and her team for working with us on this measure. It's designed to address a couple of enforcement barriers that we've faced when it comes to addressing dogs who are, particularly those who are routinely stray. And we believe this measure will help tighten that up so that we can get better accountability and lower frustration for the community. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions? See none. Anyone else wishing to testify in person? See none. Any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, see none, no remote testifiers. Okay, thank you. All right, Chair recommends that Bill 16.
Chair, quick discussion.
Oh, sorry.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
Chair. Thank you. I just want to thank Director Hashiro and also Stephanie Kendrick and your team for working really closely with my team. I appreciate the efforts. I know this bill came off of another bill that we had regarding dogs and safety. So I just want to thank CSD as well as Humane Society. Thank you so much for working with my team. We look forward to continuing the efforts to keep our communities safe. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Chair recommends that Bill 16 as amended to the posted CD1 identified as you have it in front of you. Any discussion? Any WRs or no's? Okay, see none, thank you. Chair then recommends that Bill 16 CD1 be reported out for second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Any WRs or no's? Okay, thank you. Let's move on to agenda item number 3, Bill 48. Director Kahikina.
Good afternoon, Chair, Council members. Thank you for putting this on the agenda. I just want to clarify, there was a recent ruling in a condemnation case. This is what triggered our request to amend the language. The ruling referenced section in the ROH section 2-39.2 that refers it to heart. So we just want to make the language extremely clear that we are not an executive agency. We are semi-autonomous. This section is pertaining to Department of Design and Construction, not to heart. So we, with our corporation counsel and with our outside attorneys, propose very simple language to just make that extremely clear that we are not an executive agency and this part of the ROH should not pertain to heart. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, members? See none. We'll move on to any in-person testifiers. See none. Any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, thank you. Members, discussion? See none. Chair recommends that Bill 48 be reported out for second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Any WRs or no's, members? See none, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, Resolution 26-157, accepting of a gift. Anyone to testify in person, please come forward. See none. Any testifiers remotely?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion, members? See none. Any chair recommends the resolution 26-157 report out for adoption. Any WRs or no's? See none. Thank you, members. Okay, members, we will now move to executive session. The following items as posted on the agenda have been referred to executive session. I will read the items individually to allow for oral public testimony on each item. Testifiers will testify on all executive session items together. The time allotted for each testimony on each item is 1 minute as set forth in the agenda. Agenda item number 5, Kimura versus City and County of Honolulu. Agenda item number 6, Gentzler versus City and County of Honolulu. Anyone wishing to testify in person, please come forward. See none. Any remote testifiers?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, see none. Thank you. Members, are there any objections to resolving into executive session? See none. With no objections, the committee resolves into executive session pursuant to HRS section 92-4 and 92-5 A4 to consult with its attorneys on questions, issues pertaining to the powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and/or liabilities of the city and the council on items listed on the agenda for executive session. The following persons will participate in executive sessions: all council members present from the Department of Corporation Counsel, Deputy Corporation Counsel Pang, Warrington, and Awang. From the Office of Council Services, Director Park, Deputy Director Pitcher, and Staff Attorney Matsuda. For those nobody's participating remotely. Okay, I will now call a recess. Recess subject to the call of a chair.
Aloha, I'm Honolulu City Council Chair Tommy Waters, and this is Council Conversations. This new video series takes you behind the scenes to see how your Honolulu City Council works and how we make decisions that shape our lives in this beautiful island home. In each episode, you'll hear directly from a council member about policies, legislation, or activities that impact you, from housing and public safety to cost of living and quality of life. Today, I'm here to recap important legislation that passed out of the November full council hearing. Bill 62 updates the rules for bed and breakfast and vacation rentals to clarify where these establishments can operate. This affects areas such as Waikiki, Ko'olina, and Turtle Bay. This outlines steps owners must take to register, renew, and comply with safety and neighborhood guidelines, ensuring that short-term rentals are safe and adhere to the rules. Then there's Bill 59, introduced by Councilmember Okimoto, which clarifies what can and cannot go into our sewers. It tightens up the rules to stop harmful contaminants from getting into our water systems, helping to protect public health and the environment on Oahu. These bills are now on their way to the mayor to sign into law within 10 business days. Resolution 25-305, urging the Department of Planning and Permitting to reject the planned gondola and restaurant atop Mount Ka'ala, also passed yesterday. Lastly, your council passed Resolution 25-284, giving the men and women of HPD a 27% salary increase over the next 4 years. Mahalo for watching. I'm Tommy Waters, your City Council Chair, and this is Council Conversations. Aloha, and welcome to Council Conversations. I'm Tommy Waters, Chair of the Honolulu City Council. In this episode, I'm here to explain Bill 64 and 65 relating to appropriations and budget execution. Bill 64 and 65 are two measures that deal with something that affects all of us, how your tax dollars are used. Every year, about $500 million that's been approved by the City Council for things like upgrading parks, fixing roads, or improving city services go unspent. That's money just sitting there, money that should be helping our communities. Bill 64 and 65 make sure we can see where those dollars are going and where they're not going. They add new reporting requirements so the council can spot trends like which departments are leaving money on the table and which programs are running short and need help. By tracking this better, the council can move funds where they're needed most, without raising taxes or fees. It's about making the most of what we already have instead of constantly asking for more. In short, Bill 64 and 65 help end the shell game and make sure your tax dollars actually go to work for you, providing stronger services and a city that runs smarter. So next time you hear about Bill 64 and 65, remember, it's about accountability, transparency, and smarter spending. Let's make sure every dollar counts. To learn more about these two bills, go to honolulucitycouncil.org and click on the Find Legislation button. Mahalo for joining us. I'm Council Chair Tommy Waters, and this is Council Conversations. Aloha, and welcome back to Council Conversations. In this episode, we take a look at the work the Council has been doing to support Kama'aina housing, homes built for the people who live and work right here in Honolulu. Over the past 5 years, your City Council has approved 27 new housing projects, creating 10,811 homes for local families. These homes include rentals for low-income residents, workforce apartments, and new homes for sale. Because your council views Kama'aina housing as finding equitable solutions while promoting community-centered growth that supports local families and ensuring sustainable land use. Take Parkway at Kapolei, which opened last December. The council approved the development that built 401 rental homes and 3 preschool classrooms, a first-of-its-kind concept designed to support young families in their growing community. In Kaka'ako, the Waiakoa project, which will deliver a mix of 1,032 homes, of which 620 will be affordable under the city's affordable income restrictions, providing more homes in urban metropolitan Honolulu. Also in Kaka'ako, the City Council approved 621 affordable housing rentals in Pohukaina Commons development. In Mo'iliili, Kuilei Place will give 1,005 families the ability to achieve the dream of home ownership. The council worked to ensure that 603 of these homes will be priced at affordable housing ranges. Also in Mo'iliili, the council approved 278 affordable rental units at Hale Mo'iliili and another 104 units at Hale Makana o Mo'iliili. In Waipahu, Makai of the historic Arakawa Sugar Mill smokestack, the council approved the Keawalau redevelopment. This will bring 537 new affordable rental units so families can stay in their community. These are just a few of the 27 projects that the council has supported, improved, and approved. The council continues to push for home development, even as many projects wait for state financing to move forward. Seeing our local families struggle or leave our island drives us to keep finding ways to create more homes for our Kama'aina. I'm Council Chair Tommy Waters, and this is Council Conversation. Aloha and welcome back. This is Council Conversations. Today we're talking about Bill 46, a measure Councilmember Toba and I introduced to help keep our community safe and informed. Here's how it works. HPD will have to reinstate sharing basic dispatch information with local news outlets so that when something major happens, like the 2023 New Year's Day police chase.
The two were hospitalized after Sydney Tafokitau opened fire during an island-wide manhunt on New Year's Day.
Or the 2024 spring break shooting in Waikiki.
Police say shortly after 9:30 last night, 2 men opened fire near the intersection of Kalakaua Avenue and Lure Street. Police say a bullet hit a nearby business.
News outlets will be able to keep the public informed, aware, and safe. Local newsrooms are essential partners in providing timely, trustworthy emergency information that helps keep everyone protected. Under Bill 46, HPD must work with local media to provide timely updates about active crimes or public safety threats. These updates would be sent through alerts or over radio scanner communications, but it will never include individuals' private details or compromise police operations. The Council will also hold HPD accountable, where the Chief of Police will report to the Council each year on how this information is shared, what privacy safeguards are in place, and which media outlets have access. Any local newsroom that misuses HPD communications could face penalties or lose access. In short, Bill 46 improves transparency and safety by ensuring the public gets timely, accurate emergency information while protecting privacy and law enforcement integrity. Mahalo for watching. I'm Council Chair Tommy Waters, and this is Council Conversations.
Aloha, I'm City Councilmember Okimoto. Welcome to Council Conversations. I represent District 9 and I chair the Public Safety and Economy Committee. In this committee, we look at laws that keep our neighborhoods, our people, and our islands safe, while also overseeing legislation about our local economy, from our 6 municipal golf courses to the Blaisdell and Waikiki Shell. Today, we're breaking down what came out of our November Public Safety and Economy hearing. You probably heard about Bill 46. This bill will bring back access to basic police dispatch information from our local newsrooms. That means TV, radio, newspapers can give you quicker, more accurate updates during big emergencies. There's been a lot of work to bring HPD and the media to agree on the timing of notifications while ensuring citizens' privacy rights are protected and maintain the integrity of HPD's tactical operations. The committee also made 2 appointments. Resolution 25-292, appointing Anno Nubar to the Citizens Advisory Commission on Emergency Management, and Resolution 25-290, appointing Blake Parsons to the Police Commission. All of these items now head to the next full council meeting on December 3rd at 10 a.m. I hope you'll join us either in person at City Hall or online at honolulucitycouncil.org. Mahalo, I'm Councilmember Okimoto, your chair of the Committee on Public Safety and the Economy, and this is Council Conversation.
Aloha and welcome back to Council Conversations. I'm Tommy Waters, your Honolulu City Council Chair, and this is your February Council meeting in 90 seconds. Councilmember Tupola, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
It is my honor to introduce Timmy Chang, the head football coach for the University of Hawaii Rainbow Warriors.
Tough decisions will need to be made to preserve what makes Hawaii a special place. But you were chosen. You've earned that right to lead. Keep the aloha. God bless. Thank you.
And our special guest this morning, Lulu the Honu, Honolulu Zoo's beloved ambassador.
This bill strengthens transparency and accountability by requiring a publicly accessible, regularly updated website with an interactive map, integrating the city's wastewater and stormwater systems.
I would like to see information for our communities that are in the queue to be connected to the city system. My communities have asked to know timeframes and also whether the city will work with them on community outreach.
Bill 12, 2026 has passed second reading.
I'm really hopeful for us authorizing this very first step. This doesn't take away any of the oversight that the council has over the project and over HART. We are not writing a blank check. I'm hopeful for future funding for future extensions to the project. Mahalo.
Then Bill 60, 2025, CD2 has passed third reading. Aloha and welcome back to Council Conversations. I'm Tommy Waters, your Honolulu City Council Chair. And on this episode, I want to talk about something that affects all of us, housing. Let me be direct. Housing is the single biggest reason families struggle to stay in Honolulu. If we're serious about keeping our communities whole, we cannot afford to wait any longer. Here's what the data tells us. Federal data shows that Honolulu's families spend an average of about $32,000 a year in housing, over a third of their gross income. But for many families, the number is even higher. The reality is that housing costs consume more than half of the household's take-home pay. That leaves almost nothing for food, healthcare, education, or savings. Housing is not just one piece of the cost of living puzzle, it's the biggest piece. This is how it all comes together. When housing supply is tight, prices go up. When prices go up, families get squeezed out or forced to leave. More homes mean more choices, and more choices mean lower pressure on the part of your budget that hurts the most. That is why building more houses is not separate from addressing affordability. It's the part of how we address affordability. As chair, this council has already approved more than 10,800 new homes, of which nearly 80% are affordable units. That is real and tangible progress. But it also shows how much ground we need to cover. Approving housing development is one thing. Building enough of the right homes in the right places fast enough to make a difference, and that is the work still ahead of us. Supporting more housing doesn't mean abandoning smart planning. New homes need roads, water, sewer, schools, and public safety. Oahu water systems deliver roughly 145 million gallons of water a day, and the city maintains more than 3,600 miles of roads. Growth must be matched by well-planned infrastructure investments. That means building in the right places, making better use of the land we already have, and ensuring that development serves our communities. To be clear, here's where I stand. Build more housing, build more affordable housing, and support smart development that helps local families live closer to jobs, schools, and services. Because housing is the highest cost in families' budget. Building more housing is one of the clearest ways we can bring down the cost of living for residents of Oahu. I'm Tommy Waters, and this is Council Conversations. Hello, and welcome back to Council Conversations. I'm Tommy Waters, your Honolulu City Council Chair. This year, the administration proposed a $5.09 billion budget, and credit to the mayor for presenting a balanced budget. From my perspective, the budget is not just about numbers, it's about impact. With nearly 1 million people calling this island home, many families are stretching every paycheck to cover rent, utilities, and transportation. They're making sacrifices. The city needs to do the same by cutting waste, eliminating redundancies, and protecting the services people depend on most. This is the time of year when we make real choices about what gets funded, what gets fixed, and what may no longer be sustainable. I believe that this council's first obligation is to those already carrying the heaviest burden, to Marco Puna on fixed incomes, to the working families that are fighting every day to build a future in Hawaii. These are the people whom this budget must serve first. However, we have real obligations ahead of us. The mandated sewer system upgrades, the long-term landfill capacity solutions, upgrades to H power plant, and, as we've seen from recent events, disaster preparedness. These are some of the numerous essential city functions that require resources. These are not future hypotheticals. They are real responsibilities, and delays only limit our options and increase long-term costs. That's why I, along with the budget chair and committee, will be disciplined in reducing long-term costs, strengthening essential services, and avoiding future pushing the cost burden into local families, all while pursuing every opportunity to bring in funding from outside of Hawaii in ways that support our residents and protect their quality of life because our residents deserve it. I'm Tommy Waters. This is Council Conversations.
Aloha and welcome back to Council Conversations. I am Valakina Okimoto, your City and County Budget Chair.
And I'm Tommy Waters, your Honolulu City Council Chair. When different perspectives are raised during the budget process, it's easy for people to jump to conclusions. It's also easy to fear misinformation or old habits to shape the conversation.
This budget is not about creating division. It is about building a more transparent, accountable, and intentional city government for everyone.
For many years, the city's budget process has too often taken the long route. Money was set aside, but not always spent. Positions were funded, but not always filled. Projects were listed, but not always delivered.
We appreciate and respect the administration's hard work in constructing and preparing the initial budget proposal. It provides a vital foundation. From there, the council has a distinct charter responsibility to review, refine, and build upon what was initially presented.
Our job is not simply to act as a rubber stamp for the mayor. It's through robust collaborative discussion that we work to ensure our city's budget is responsive to our residents' needs, incorporates community priorities, and plans strategically for the future.
Okay, members, the Committee on International Legal Affairs is reconvened pursuant to Section 92-4 and 92-5A4 of the HRS. The committee is consulted in executive session with its attorneys on questions and issues pertaining to the powers, duties, privileges, immunities, and/or liabilities of the city and the council on the items listed on agenda for executive session. Okay, for agenda item number 5, Kimura versus City and County of Honolulu, Chair's recommendation will be to defer, defer till another date. Okay? Recess, subject to the call of the chair. Okay, we're back in session. We're gonna postpone agenda item number 5 and bring it back at another date. Okay, any discussion? Okay, seeing none. For agenda item number 6, Chair recommends that the request for authorization to settle a lawsuit against the City and County of Honolulu entitled Gentzler versus City and County of Honolulu, as discussed in executive session, be reported out for adoption. Any discussion? Any WRs or no's? Thank you, members. We are adjourned.